Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Folks, you ever get an itch in your back where you just, no matter what, you can't, no matter how flexible you are, you just can't possibly reach it? Got one of those right now. That's not the though. That's not the we're talking about. The we're talking about is the WNBA fan reaction to the sale of the Connecticut Sun to Houston, to the owner of the Houston Rockets, to Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, after the denial of the Connecticut Sun being sold to an owner of the Boston Celtics and being relocated to Boston, which did make a lot of sense, actually. Now the WNBA does not have a team in New England. Boston, absolutely one of the top 5 sports cities in America. Personally, I hate it. But, that's because I'm a Philadelphia fan, Sixers, Celtics. I mean, that right there is more than enough. Got the Bruin. Ugh, just don't even get me started. Anyway, first of all, real quick, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I do truly appreciate all of your support. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. So let's dig into some of this. We have this right here. First, the general concern, kind of like I was saying, but we've got some other stuff too. Some, some more unhinged things. Really bad look for the WNBA here. Off the chart bad. Turned down more money from a proven NBA owner to keep the team in New England. Houston should have a team, just not New England's. It took the NBA 20 years to connect the same mistake with Seattle. Now, again, to be fair, the Rockets owner purchased the Connecticut Sun. So it's also a proven NBA owner that now is going to own the team and put them in Houston. So, just to be clear, like I said, it's always important to be fair. So now we got another one. Let me get this straight. Hartford and Boston-based groups both offered $325 million. Keep that number in mind, by the way. I said that in the previous video. To keep the team here. WNBA says no thanks. We'll go to Houston for less. Houston should have a team. They should not have ours. What are we doing here? Now, again, I get that. I sympathize with that. Kathy's point, and I'm not saying she's right, though, was that it's going to go to a city that was part of the expansion process. And I do believe Boston, in making the submission of this bid to buy the team, was late, right? I can't remember all the details, but I do remember doing a video about it last year. They were a little late for their submission to the purchase because, not that it matters, it's the WNBA. If they really were okay with selling the team and relocating it to Boston, they could have easily rectified that. So, that just was an excuse for them. Now, here we go. Let's get into some of this. Let's get into some of this good stuff, okay? The 12 fans that were here 10 years ago care. The rest hope that Mabry is traded. Yeah, because that's the thing. They started out in Houston with those 4 titles right off the bat, first 4 years of the league, and then they were gone 8 years later because they weren't quite as good. The fandom disappeared, kind of like what happened with the entire league, just more so with Houston, and they were not going to continue to put money into the team. Is there a demand in Texas for a team in Houston? Dallas Wings can't even fill their own stadium on a consistent basis, and that is a fair point. That is one of the things we're going to find out. Now, you would hope that all due diligence was done, first of all, by the league, but also by the Rockets owner as well. Now, I get the concern 100% because, well, on the one hand, my assumption would be, well, it's a professional sports league. It's not really expansion, but we've got a team moving. Of course, they're going to do their due diligence as to whether it is viable long term, right? Absolutely. But then I realized it's the WNBA and everything that's going on with this league for 30 years and everything we've seen since Caitlin Clark joined. And I thought, wait a minute. Hold on, back the truck up. This might not have been thought through, but I will say this. You also obviously would have had the Houston Rockets owner who's putting out the $300 million that he would do his due diligence. So fingers crossed on that. What is worse than playing in a casino gymnasium? Moving to Houston. Now we're getting into another category that we'll address here in a minute. Clown League. Big Caitlin Clark fan here. Someone I follow, someone who follows me, at least I think still. Yes, okay. So that's, I'm not sure why they're saying that. Now, see, and then you get into all the emotion and the feels right here. Someone saying the Mohegan Sun owner should sue WNBA for tampering in a fair market sale of their franchise for 200 million less than the Boston Group was offering. Okay, it was 25 million less. Okay, it was not 500 million and 300 million. It was 325 million and 300 million. But here's the other thing, and I touched on this in the other video. A professional sports league is a different entity. Okay, this is not like I'll use Philly and Boston speaking of, right? The Sixers are not trying to put the Boston Celtics out of business. They're trying to put together a better team that can beat the Boston Celtics. It's not Walmart and Target. They'd each be happy if the other went out of business, they get more market share. This is not that. You don't want to put the opposing teams out of business. So there are certain things in place that are a little different than what you get in the free market. So, and case in point, the whole league, right? The whole league has to survive and thrive. So the existing owners have a say in where teams move and if when there are expansion teams and where those are located, because it's important. It affects the entire league. Okay, so that, I mean, this is completely wrong. This is somebody who's very emotional, very upset, but nothing that they said is actually correct, factually speaking. How can a team that never was the Comets move to Houston and become the Comets? Anyone? The Comets are not actually back, are they? It would be fun if anyone could share some light on how these type of things usually work in U.S. sports. It varies, but it it depends. It can be either. For example, the Cleveland Browns moved to Baltimore, became the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens are, hey, we're a new team, we're in Baltimore. None of the history, like statistically, franchise leaders, all that stuff exists for us anymore. Then we got an expansion team to go back to Cleveland and become the Browns again. It's the same uniform, like the whole thing, and they took on the history of the original Cleveland Browns, so they have all that history. Then you have a team like Houston Oilers. They moved, they became the Tennessee Titans. Then we got another team in Houston. They went with the name the Texans, brand new, not taking any of the history of the Houston Oilers or associating with the Houston Oilers, unlike what the Cleveland team that went into Cleveland after the Cleveland Browns left. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. So that depends. Asking Noah, that's kind of funny. It's incomprehensible that Steve Peluca wasn't allowed to purchase the team and keep them in New England. 300 million for a sports team where the league barely cracks 200 million in revenue. Good point, but there are a lot of different factors that go into sports team valuations that don't necessarily correspond with that type of stuff. If you really watch the WNBA, you know this changes everything. So be honest, W move or L move bringing back the Houston Comets. How was that better than a 325 million offer from Bucks ownership to Hartford? I thought Celtics ownership. Boston, is that what you're talking about? The WNBA and NBA want all teams to be in NBA cities and owned by the owner of the NBA franchise there. That is why the higher Boston bid was turned down. The WNBA said Boston could bid in an expansion team in the future. Maybe. I mean, it kind of makes sense if they have that association with the NBA. Here we go. Here's. All right, I gotta be careful with this one. Women's basketball league, presumably run by women. Incorrect presumption. Women and men. Forces a women's team out of New England to a region that, okay, they weren't forced. They weren't forced. The Connecticut Sun ownership has been looking to sell for a long time. Restrict to a region that restricts women's health care, puts... Give me a moment. Puts bounties on women, puts and women in jail. I guess that means puts women in jail, to a Trump Abbott loving MAGA whatever to boot. Remember that other comment I said instead of hold that thought? This is, I think, a little bit part of the problem with the WNBA old guard is you have a Houston Rockets owner who leans right. They're not too thrilled about that. But this is like whatever you think of Texas, man. This is it was that comment about someone who want to move to Houston. This puts bounties on women. Yes, women do go to jail if they break the law, just like men do. Like someone seriously answer this without getting all wacky and crazy. I don't really want a political discussion. I'm trying to decipher this on its face. Puts bounties on women. What? What? Oh my lord. Yeah. So we got to, WNBA. What a disgrace. The WNBA has become as callous as other professional leagues. Screw the fans. We only care about money. The argument that they've outgrown Megan Sun Arena is nonsense. We have a renovated 16,000 seat arena in Hartford. Now, see, again, I'm going to leave it with this one because we could probably go on for a while. And I just wanted to get some of the concerns, some of the ones where people have no idea they're talking about, some of the ones that are completely delusional. The ownership of the Sun were selling the team. This is not, the WNBA didn't force a sale of the Connecticut Sun. Yes, they made a choice in terms of taking Houston over Boston as the recipient, but they did not force this sale. So we have someone who's blaming the WNBA for forcing the team out of Connecticut, which did not happen. I wonder how long it will take for the new owners to make 300 million in profit. Yeah, that's not how investing works. Probably going to take a while. But yeah, this is the wild part of the lame duck season. That's going to be interesting. So the thing I'll finish up with, and that's why you saw the players on the thumbnail that you see, obviously Marina. Well, I think she's a free agent though, but obviously Connecticut Sun player. Will this attract any of the big names? Now I know it's a lame duck season, but if you sign a multi-year deal, or any players willing to go play in Connecticut that will then end up with a fresh start in Houston, right? If you're Angel Reed, well, Angel's under contract, but she could be traded. Asia Wilson, she's going to get a max from Vegas though. But if you're, I don't know, okay, Jonquel Jones, right? New York Liberty are not going to keep their big three. I don't think they can financially. Do you do you get a super max in Connecticut? They might be the only team that can give you one. But sign a 3-year deal. Head to Houston. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I had to react to some of these comments because they're all over the map. We've got the feels, we've got the people yapping who have no idea what they're talking about. We have the people who get it political, crazy with it, bounties on women. The whole thing's wild. Let me know your thoughts. Appreciate it. Smash the like button, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.